Welcome back. Once again, I'm your host, Carl Rising, and today we have a very special topic, a very complex topic, though deceptively simple, and that's warranting a new recording format. Try to keep this fairly steady, but I'll be zooming in and out, using my cell phone, so that I can get a better bit of clarity and resolution on my whiteboard full of very complicated back and forth, so we're gonna go through that. Now, this is intended not to be a complete description of health or how different people develop different health problems, but with the number of problems in this category and this category and this category going on in the Western world, well, these are a lot of different patterns of cause and effect that have shown to be very common. So we're going to discuss them today. Today, we are going to talk about how Candida albicans yeast overgrowth is the first domino in potentially most illnesses. Well, probably most illnesses. So, starting off with a Candida overgrowth, which can be caused by a deficiency of zinc through diet or through weakened stomach acid of one sort or another, though usually because we need zinc to make stomach acid of any decent quality, being deficient in it will cause the weakened stomach acid condition. Causes all sorts of other issues here, but we'll get to that. So, more commonly, people get a Candida overgrowth because of diet, eating a lot of sugars and starch. It's very Western, agricultural diet, lots of bread, lots of grains, or it's antibiotics, either prescription or added to the food, milk and dairy products, meats that are filled with antibiotics. We're killing our guts. So, what happens when we have a sudden vacuum to fill in our intestines because we've lost a lot of our beneficial bacteria that are a little more complex, a little more fragile? We end up with a Candida overgrowth because there's more signals coming from the surviving Candida than the other species that have been decimated. So our cravings for foods that feed that specific bacteria are in a different ratio than we're used to from the bacteria that would have been in higher population before but have dropped in population, because we get signals up the vagus nerve all day long telling us what our bacteria crave, and when they're in balance, they crave what keeps us healthy. It's millions of years of symbiotic evolution with these bacteria that live in our intestines and other parts of our bodies, even our brains. New studies showing there's a microbiome in the brain. So, anyway, we have a flora imbalance. We are going to end up with a few different things. We will get to this after these first three up here. So, The enzymes that our intestinal bacteria produce power about 75 to 80% of any individual person's immune function. You need enzymes to break stuff down. Every metabolic process needs an enzyme, even if you're building stuff, but especially if you're breaking stuff. It's even scar tissue. You'll end up with a reduced metabolism through some other means here. There really should be another thing here attaching slowed healing to the lack of enzymes, because if you can't get rid of scar tissue that's affecting inflammation and affecting your ability to have good circulation, excuse me, just switching hands there, into a tissue that's been damaged, then you're not going to be able to heal that tissue very efficiently. But yeah, weakened immunity, because you don't have the metabolic resources to break down things that your body really would do better without having in its tissues, including Candida yeast. That will come out through perforations in the intestines. And if you got eczema or psoriasis, dry skin problems, fungus on your toenail, that's usually Candida thrown out to some peripheral part of the body. Longer term problems where the tissues are weaker, you'll end up with it in your joints, especially if you've had injuries. But it'll get to whatever tissue it can get into, which is the next thing here, autoimmune diseases. If we have a population of Candida in tissue where it shouldn't be, even in the intestinal tract in populations where it shouldn't be, or in the large intestine where it shouldn't be, and it's only supposed to be in the small intestine, the mouth, and the vagina, nowhere else really in the body, an optimal state. We do our best. We eat a lot of grains, a lot of cheese. But yeah, autoimmune disorders, because our system that is lacking the proper enzymes to combat the population of whatever sort of thing, whether it's Lyme or it's Candida, especially because Candida is half animal, half plant, so it requires specific enzymes to break down plant matter. Whatever bacteria we have in a tissue that shouldn't be there and is hard to kill, we're going to end up running out of enzymes to break it down, and the immune system goes into overdrive, and we end up with a whole bunch of tissue breakdown, as well as the Candida itself produces a compound that it can break down tissue, and there's compounds it creates that are acidic that affect inflammation and tissue breakdown. It's just it wants to digest and live on whatever it can. It's something that used to just live off the berries in our diet, but we eat way too many things that feed it in our modern diet. So the next thing is our intestinal bacteria produce B vitamins. A lot of B vitamins. There'd be a lot fewer people out there taking B vitamin supplements if their intestinal bacteria were making enough B vitamins for them. We need these B vitamins to power various metabolic processes involving those enzymes. But even just making energy, but also making our neurotransmitters. We can't synthesize our neurotransmitters up into their more mature forms like serotonin and dopamine without B vitamins. We can't heal as quickly without B vitamins. And what do we have when we're stressed from not healing well, and stressed from having low neurotransmitters, and stressed from being tired all the time? You know, it gets easier for us to get to that last straw point where we're just stressed and our system is flooded with cortisol over something that feels like it's totally out of our control. And just like, oh, crap. And, cortisol blocks receptor sites on cells so that all we're really pulling in is simple sugars and not so much the complex nutrition that would take away from your cells, say, just pumping the mitochondria to run or fight. So the cortisol is a fight or flight neurotransmitter. So if it's blocking the complex nutrition from getting in, we're going to have reduced metabolism and slow healing there again. So this is a cycle that's part of these other bits here that we get stuck in that affects all of this other stuff, because you can't heal as well. You can't repair tissue damage from your autoimmune disease if you're dealing with slowed metabolism, slowed healing, depleted B vitamins, constant cortisol. You're also going to end up with adrenal burnout at some point. You won't be able to have any energy or up and gut like gumption to get up and do anything. Now, we are going to get into this branch down here. There's a cycle in here as well. There's another cycle down here. These are all patterns that just fit together, and you often see people with some grab bag of these problems all together. So, Candida overgrowth, crowding out the bacteria that would digest plant matter and get us our minerals, like zinc, give us weak stomach acid. With weak stomach acid, we will also have an overgrowth of H. pylori. H. pylori itself buffers acid to survive. It lives in your stomach. It makes a protein pump inhibitor, same kind of compound you'd find in Prilosec, omeprazole, Zyrtec, ranitidine, all of those horrible, horrible, immediate symptom relieving, but affecting your general health in the long run. Heartburn medications that are really meant to be taken very short term if you take them, and are advertised like they're after dinner mints. So weak stomach acid fosters a better environment for them. They overgrow, or they get even more overgrown. And then that weak stomach acid fosters a better environment for the Candida to overgrow. It likes it a little acidic, like as acidic as it wants to make your tissues, with things like oxalates and other alcohols and all sorts of things that it produces, but not as acidic as really caustic, proper stomach acid should be. So you gotta take your zinc, guys. If you're dealing with a Candida thing, that is so important. Make sure you have your zinc. With compromised digestion, we're also going to be low on a whole bunch of other things. Healthy fats, proteins, which I didn't put a place in here for proteins, but you need your zinc to synthesize up a lot of proteins into usable forms for structure. So that's kind of in there. Iron, fatigue, lack of iron because you can't transport your oxygen, depression and anxiety from there, lack of healthy fats. You end up dealing with depression and anxiety because, omega-3s are essential for preventing depression and anxiety and aiding memory and a whole bunch of other things with your immune system and how thin your blood is so it travels better. all sorts of things, and that's connecting, of course, back up to here, the green star, depression, anxiety, depleted neurotransmitters, lack of healthy fats, all of that going together to give you various mental illness issues. And then we end up with this whole stage here: depression, anxiety, bad decisions, comfort eating, bad decisions. That goes both ways, I feel, in a lot of our lives. No shame in it. We all have our moments. It's fine. This is something we have to be real about if we're going to, fully digest the picture here. And then we end up back to H. pylori and Candida overgrowth from this comfort eating, and in further imbalancing our intestinal flora, getting more and more signals to feed the bacteria that are growing in number. And that Candida is only supposed to be there at about 5% out of like 100 trillion bacteria. So yeah, everything from autoimmune arthritis to prostatitis, lupus, IBS, Crohn's colitis, eczema, psoriasis, seborrhea, cradle cap, acne, just about everything. All sorts of different diseases caused by Candida overgrowth, and anything going off with our gut is going to mess with our mental health and our digestion and our ability to even get the nutrition integrated into our body that is going to help keep us from getting to this whole cycle here. As I forgot to mention, your depleted neurotransmitters, that whole thing, cortisol from stress, your intestinal bacteria are affected by cortisol the same way your other cells are. Candida doesn't care. It's just looking for sugar. It doesn't really have receptor sites for things like that. It has a thick biofilm that protects it anyway. The other bacteria will have a slowed mitosis, just like your other cells with cortisol. So cortisol hurts your gut. Your gut being hurt makes you have less focus, worse memory, less ability to handle stress, and end up with more floods of cortisol. And you end up in this really, really, really hard, especially if you're not in a mindset to face the pain of your situations in your life. So you end up just repeating the memory of this is an unresolved problem, this is an unresolved problem, and this is an unresolved problem. You just end up, like you gotta, and end up with the chemical equivalent of having a small saber-toothed tiger hanging on your shoulder with one fang in the muscle, so long that you're almost numb to it, and you're just on autopilot with this. And then you go down to here again, and you go up to here again, and there, and this gets worse and worse and worse and worse the longer you don't take care of it, and whatever is the weakest link in your body is going to suffer from it, whether it be autoimmune arthritis, or whether it be due to lack of certain nutrition, especially zinc, like in your prostate, or end up in your skin, also lack of zinc, in your joints, lack of zinc, again there. But yeah, these deficiencies will also lead to numerous other health issues if you are at all studied on what nutrients help different health problems. If you're having compromised digestion, you're going to end up with something. It's going to depend on what's in your diet, and what you're going to end up deficient in first because you're not eating it on a regular basis, and you can't integrate it into your body as efficiently because you can't micronize it in the digestive tract. It's a slippery slope, but it's something that if you're mindful of, you can fix probably just about every chronic health problem that you have within, probably at the most a few years, maybe 5 years, depending on how bad you are. But I fixed a bunch of my health problems with this logic. So much better. Enjoy, learn, use, subscribe, share, donate if you like. But at the very least, use it.